Less than 10% of storage operators had online rentals in 2017 when we started. Crazy to think about.
You couldn't have timed it better if you
Dude,
tried, right?
Right. So we built and made a lot of mistakes in those first 3 years, and then COVID happened, and then instantly we had product market fit, right? Everyone and their mom needed the thing that we built, spent all this time building.
Today's episode features someone most of you already know in the self-storage world, Tommy Nguyen, co-founder and COO of StoragePug. Tommy and his team have changed how operators think about digital experiences, marketing, and customer acquisition. We get into how StoragePug started, what the messy middle really looks like, and what it really takes to build great products in a crowded space. This one's packed with frameworks, hot takes, and some honest reflection on how Tommy stays grounded while running at full speed. Let's jump in.
So really pumped to finally have you, Tommy.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Thank you for joining. I think it's been it's like you're not even you're a Gyarados in the ocean of self storage. Trying to get you on the schedule here. So, glad it finally happened. For those of you that don't know, that's a Pokemon reference.
Starting it early, Pokemon reference.
Let's go.
Top.
Let's go. I've had too much coffee. But just starting it off. From the very beginning, I was reading up on you. Obviously, we did a little research, and I'd say you have a pretty unique background. I'd say, so I definitely want to start there and kind of hear it from you. But I think, correct me if I'm wrong, born in Vietnam, raised in Tennessee. I'm just kind of curious your trajectory there, and just like how did your journey, your family's journey, and upbringing kind of shape where you are today? I feel like kind of digging into a lot. You've had some, I'd say, instrumental shifts in your journey from potentially like med school to computer science entrepreneur. So I'm just kind of curious, how did that all come about?
You certainly did your research, man. I'm impressed.
A little bit.
That's awesome, man. I'll say this, at minimum, the collision path between myself and self-storage, the prospects of that increase like a gazillion fold when we moved to America. Self-storage technically does exist in Vietnam now. There's actually a group in Vietnam doing self-storage, which is actually kind of neat and cool. But yeah, our family moved here when I was a baby. I was like 2 years old. We moved here in 1992. And actually, we landed in Atlanta. Was where it all really started. Atlanta was a big hub for Vietnamese people. The group that helped us immigrate to America, that's where they put us. And so I grew up in like the very not fun part of Atlanta. And but in like 96, I think, was when we actually moved up to Knoxville, and that's where I've been ever since. But yeah, I think it's kind of interesting to like think about all the different like big stepping stones, and all of us have it, right? I mean, Mason, Kyle, Rudolph, all of y'all, all of us, we all, and the folks in the audience listening, we all have these big major moments in our lives, not to get too spiritual about it, but like these big major moments that like, if that didn't happen, the rest of the story can't be told in the same way, and I think like, obviously my mom making the huge decision to take me as a baby to America, a place where she doesn't speak the language or understand the culture or like the food. If that didn't happen, who knows, And then of course, moving to Knoxville became a thing, and deciding to stay here, go to University of Tennessee, do the pre-med route. Blood and guts is not my thing. It turned out I get really queasy with like broken bones. So that wasn't a feasible career path for me. So my senior year at University of Tennessee, my wife was actually the one who said, you know what, Tommy, how about you take some computer science courses? You like tech? And at that time I was doing some like, low key, like just doing some random like programming things that was not coding by any means at that time. But she enrolled me in a computer science course, and like everything, like all the stars aligned very quickly overnight. And I decided this is the path. I don't know where it's going to lead me. I don't know what I'm going to end up doing, but I really enjoy the problem solving element of it. I really, of course, enjoy like the technical bit of it. And it's also like, I think you guys, this might resonate with you guys, is like Kyle probably definitely is like, you kind of love to know how things work. You know what I mean? And then like computer science was kind of like the cheat code to like really like, oh, well, that's how everything's built. And so like once you kind of like break things down to literally bits and bytes is like, okay, that's cool. Now I kind of like see under the hood a little bit. And so that stuck. After UT, I started a couple unsuccessful startups that didn't take off the ground, but it was fun anyways, nonetheless. And then about a decade ago, my two guys I went to college with, we kind of just teamed up again. Matt and Richard. We met at UT. Matt had just gotten fired from his job, and Richard had just quit in solidarity because they were both working for the same firm.
Nice.
And so, like, how cool is that, right? I mean, that part of the story is like, that's crazy. Like, and we're all in our 20s at this point, so like, you can take those kinds of risks. Anyways, well, Matt hits me up and say, "Hey, dude, like, I just got fired. I just bought a house. Like, can we do some things together?" And so we actually just tag team on like consulting projects and custom dev projects, and we split the commission, we split the fees 50-50 and did that kind of thing. We did that for almost a year, actually. And then storage came along because Matt's family owns self-storage. So now I'll get to the meat and potatoes, right? So like his family owns self-storage, and his dad was like, "Hey, we have a pretty basic website." He didn't know anything about it, classic. And he's like, "Hey, how about you guys help us do something with this?" And so we sent him a proposal. I want to say it wasn't even that crazy of a proposal. I want to say it was like $20,000, right? Maybe 25,000. And he and his partners were like, "No."
How old were you at this point?
This was 2016.
Okay.
So at this point, I was 26, and Richard, I think, was 23 or 24.
Nice.
And so we submitted this proposal to Matt's family, and they're like, "Nope, that doesn't make any sense." And so at that time, of course, I didn't know anything about self-storage. Our thought was like, we're going to build a custom platform for this one facility, this one small business. And obviously they don't need it. They don't need to own software, right? Like, that didn't make any sense for them. And so we actually went back to the drawing board and said, how about let's go create a business for this, and you just subscribe. Software as a service. You pay us a monthly fee, and we'll take care of all your online integration and all that kind of stuff, and e-commerce, and make sure you look good. And like, yeah, that sounds so much better, right? And so that's actually what we did. And so if I didn't meet, so again, going back to the motif of like these big major inflection points, right? If I didn't go to UT, because I almost didn't, I almost went to Oglethorpe outside of Atlanta. I almost went back to Atlanta for college, stayed at UT, met Matt and Richard in college. Matt's family magically somehow coincidentally owns self-storage. Of all the things they could do, if all these little major inflection points, if they didn't happen, we wouldn't be here today. So anyway, so fast forward, 8 years, we've been doing this now. We just turned 8 last month, which feels crazy. We got a team of 40. Most of us are right here in Knoxville, Tennessee still. Our headquarters are in Knoxville, Tennessee. And if you're in the audience and you're listening and you have a building to sell in the greater Knoxville area, we're looking for about 15,000 square feet.
Nice.
We're in the midst of looking at buildings right now, and buildings are hard to come by, it turns out. So we have about 6,000 square feet, and we need like more than double that.
Hey, if you get a spot, whoever will get a referral fee, of course.
There you go. Yeah, that's how real estate works. Right? Yeah, you guys get your little spiff, and we'll take you to dinner. But so we got a team of 40. Most of us right here in Knoxville. We work with around a little more than 2,000. I want to say like 2,200 facilities all across the U.S. Most of them, we actually ran a study recently. Most of them were independently owned. They own between 1 and 5 facilities, is like 65 or more % of thereabouts of our client base.
That's
so like
awesome.
We started with a single facility, Matt's family, Rocky Hill Storage, and that was our bread and butter as we grew. But even as we added big clients, right? Like Argus is now a mutual client of Swivel and StoragePug. Even though we're working with some of the really cool big third-party management and even like in-house owned operators, our bread and butter is still that independent small business owner. I think like we give them that little bit of an edge, that little bit of an advantage. Like, yeah, who cares if extra space is in my backyard? I can go toe to toe with them. Who cares if USA Storage Centers is in my backyard? I can go toe to toe with them. And I think that's the kind of like energy or kind of secret sauce that we're hoping to provide. And we can the bar is so low oftentimes when you're an independent operator, because like there's just so much that you have to do and so much you have to like deal with. And like the tech part is not in your wheelhouse. The tech part is not a core competency. And so I think for those operators, we can provide the greatest lift, if that makes sense. I think Swivel, y'all have seen similar too, right? It's like you can see that lift that you can provide to an operator that's small, where I think once you got getting a little bit larger, the sophistication increases, and so do the resources.
Mhm.
And so like we love Argus, and I think we do a lot of great things with that group, but like we don't provide nearly the same kind of value that we do to like Rocky Hill Storage. Although I would like to think we provide value, and I would like to think Argus enjoys the relationship, but ultimately though, our bread and butter is still that sweet spot of small independent operators who care and who want to be involved. Those are the kind of people we work with, and I think again provide the most lift for. So, but yeah, that's the 5-minute version from moving to America all the way to where we are now, and I get to hang out with the really cool
Oh
dudes,
yeah,
and talk about self storage all day, every day.
dude. Thanks for sharing that. That was actually really well done. Kudos.
It was his first time, Rodolfo.
Yeah. Exactly. Also, kudos to your wife. Shout out. Computer science.
Shout
What
out Sophie,
foresight?
man! Like
Foresight, dang.
truly, because I met her in high school, and we started dating when I was 16, and
Wow.
we stayed strong. Now we have 2 beautiful children, Vera and Nico, 3 and 1. And really, truly, man, if she didn't push me to take the first computer science 101 or whatever it
Mhm.
was that semester, I don't know what would have happened, because my second, so like I was pre-med, but I also had all the courses that I needed to also major in anthropology, which I thought was a very interesting topic, right? But obviously like the prospects for a career in anthropology look a lot different
Yeah.
than tech.
Yeah.
So yeah, big kudos. Shout out my lovely wife if you're listening.
Love that you said specifically she signed you up for
Yes.
that class. That's great.
Yeah, because it was last minute, because I had not signed myself up.
Nice.
So she logged in and did it for me. She's very type A, and she gets things done.
Love it. Love it. Yeah. And the last thing there, med school, we share similar stories there. So that's cool. You have a little bit of, scientific method, computer science, and human behavior anthropology, I guess. So that's a pretty good combo.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, but seriously, guys, thanks for having me on today, and excited to dive deep and talk about all the things in self storage that's going on.
Yeah, Tommy, man, it's great to have you, dude. It's been a long time coming, and I think there's just like, personally, a lot of respect on my side. When we first came in the industry, and went to our first trade show, novice, ignorance, Tommy's walking around with his bubbly personality, and like, StoragePug has just always been a brand and a company that like we've really enjoyed building a relationship with, because you guys just always do such a great job of presenting yourself in a manner that like is just clean, professional, and friendly. And so like, and since day zero, you've supported us in any way possible and just been friendly. And like, I think more and more people in the industry, specifically vendors, need to be open arms and welcome people in, because there's a lot of space for it. I kind of want to like dig in just a little bit to some product philosophy, and then I'm going to go back to like some founder first time, how have you evolved since we started with your origin story? I'm curious, just at the top of this, like, do you see StoragePug as a product-led company, like a service-led company, customer-focused company? Like, what is that definition that you put as like you guys have been building the business? And I mean, day zero, it was one, your co-founders parents self-storage facility. Like, how's that evolved over the course of time, like, and how you guys view, because you make it sound like it's such a linear path from that first one to 8 years later.
Yeah, it's anything but linear, right? Like, and I think the story sounds neat and clean, right? But like I imagine this little duck that's on the pond, right? It looks so calm and collected, but like under the surface, its little feet, those poor little feet are paddling as hard as it can. And I think like that's been our little path. And the pond is not a pond, it's an ocean that's got tsunamis. You know what I mean? So like, yeah, to your point, it I think I made it sound very sweet and short, but it really is a lot of twists and turns. And I love your question. Like, how do we position ourselves, right? Is it, are we a product company? Are we a service company? Are we somewhere in between? Are we client? Like, I think that's a great question to ask. And I think what I like to think about it, and honestly, this is part of the original pitch. When Matt came up with the idea of like, hey, what if instead of just building a one-off website for my dad, what if we started a company and like, let's team up and actually just go do this, right? And at that time, I was running an agency, and we weren't like super big or successful by any means, but like we were paying the bills. As a 20-something-year-old, I was making more money than I grew up in a single mother household with 3 siblings. I was the oldest of 3, and we didn't have a lot. I mean, we're immigrants first of all, and My mom, eventually learned English to a decent amount, and she, eventually she got into the nails business, as a lot of Vietnamese people do. But like, yeah, we didn't have a lot. We never wanted for anything, but like there was definitely like we knew that we weren't well off. And so like here I am as a 20-something-year-old making six figures running an agency is like, this is crazy. What am I going to do with all this money? And I think like during that chaos period, Matt came to me. He's like, hey, you know what? What if we were no longer having to like chase every deal and have to learn about every industry, right? Because we were doing projects for all kinds of businesses, like churches, nonprofits, consultants. The most fun project I ever worked on was a Bluetooth Geiger counter for a radiation
I don't
firm.
even know what that is, but that
Yeah.
sounds awesome.
Well, yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, like that was the kind of fun tech that we got to work on before self storage. No offense to self storage, but that was really fun, right? But the issue with that was that we were constantly having to learn new industries, constantly having to like change what we wanted to pitch and like how we built things, and constantly having to adapt, and of course, constantly sell. Like constantly meet new people, new business owners. So that was Matt's pitch. Was like, what if we just build a product, software as a service? There's a product and people, and of course we'd have to find distribution channels and all that kind of stuff. But like, what if we built a product that was a product that people can subscribe to? And that was a core part of like our desire at that time was like, yeah, that's everyone's dream, right? No one wants to build 100 different types of software if they can build one really great software. And so that was simply the pitch. So today, how I would answer your question, that was a long way to answer your question, but
That's what we're here for. We want people to come on here and nerd out with us. So I appreciate it.
But I think how I would answer your question, Mason, is I think we're a product-driven company that is very client-focused. And so, we don't do a lot of the typical agency work, right? A lot of agencies kind of fall into a trap of service work and billable hours and retainers and all this kind of stuff, right? Where we're like, sign up with us as if we're Shopify or HubSpot or whatever B2B SaaS product that your business might sign up for. And then you get everything. You can call, you can talk, you can chat, you can have Zoom meetings with our team, whatever you need. We're here for you. Like, we're going to love on you. But ultimately, though, it's one price and you get everything. And that has been the simplicity of that approach, honestly, is what's propelled us to get here. Because I think like there have been many offshoots all along the way. You mentioned the linear path, right? There are a lot of like, oh, should we get off the interstate here and like explore? And fortunately, every time we explored, we decided, you know what? We got to get back on the interstate. We got to keep driving, and really fighting. And then this is getting more to that founder mentality, right? We had to really fight the urges to like do more just because it felt more fun, or even not just fun, felt more profitable, right? Like taking on things.
You just needed to do it at the time.
Yeah, because that particular client needed it, right? Yeah. And so, don't get me wrong. In those first, I want to say, honestly, the first 5 years, we did a lot of stuff that in today's version of StoragePug we wouldn't do. But I'm thankful that we did it, right? Like, we built a lot of crazy features. Some are dumb, some are great. But we built a lot of features that were feedback from clients, and simply just to like say yes so we can close this deal, so we can pay our employees. You know what I mean? Like in those early days, those were some of the conundrums that we dealt with. Was like, hey, we either figure out how to make payroll, or let's just go ahead and say yes to this particular client and build them everything that they dreamed, imagined, right? And so the issue, of course, that's a flawed way to do business, right? And I think like it was survival to some degree, right? It's not life or death or anything, right? But like it truly is like, even, we didn't always have 40 people, but let's say even we had 8 people, those are still people who we love and want to develop and want to stay with us and and they have families to feed, right? And or mortgages and rent. And so we wanted to be good stewards of everyone who worked here. So all along the way, we felt like we had to make financial decisions that were like long-term successful, not just short-term wins, right?
Man,
and so
there's so many amazing little nuggets in there that I want to unpack at some point in time. But I'm gonna go back really quickly to something that just like really resonated. I've got a mentor advisor that he always talks about finding your dirty dozen. And it resonated because in the early stages of Swivel, we had customers in tons of different verticals, and we had white papers and use case documents that we would send out around airlines and transportation and hospitality and e-commerce. because we were trying to serve all these different verticals, right? And eventually, at some point in time, we found our highway, right? To use your analogy, which was the self-storage industry, and jumped on and was full force there. And there's a lot of things that I want to unpack around your roadmap and how you guys deal with that. But I want to just really quick, before we get off of kind of this founder origin story for a second, there's kind of two simultaneous questions that I want to dig in with you on. Is like, one of them is, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but you guys have grown without like traditional institutional investors. You've already talked about some of the challenges. I'm curious around like what the benefits of that are. I'm a big believer in, as a founder, being bootstrapped and with limited resources. And so I'm curious around what some of the benefits you guys have had in your growth story. And then a tangential question to that is, maybe something that you believed in the early days as a first-time founder that, over the course of time and maturity and seeing it like is no longer something that you believe in as well too.
I really love that question. No, as far as bootstrapping though, yeah, there were a lot of, I mentioned inflection points earlier, right, in the origin story, but I think there are also a lot of luck, a lot of stars have to align, right? Again, not to get too spiritual about it, but like stars, I do feel like stars did align. So there's three primary things that I felt like allowed us to do this in the manner that we did from a financing or from a cash perspective, right? So number one, all three founders are computer scientists. So like we can be a product company without having to hire engineers from day one. Now, we have a great team of engineers and designers and QA specialists, and we have a great team today. But in order to build our first product that took us to market, we did that with our own hands. And I think like not everybody, some companies are lucky enough to have one technical co-founder. We had all three of us are technical co-founders. So that's a huge alignment of the stars, right? Number two, all three of us were in our 20s and had the energy, like the naive, youthful. I mean, y'all are, I mean, what? Y'all are in your late 20s, early 30s. You're right there.
30s, yeah.
Yeah. So like
we span the spectrum, I'm old.
Whoa.
I'll be 40 this
yourself.
year. So
40 this year?
Yeah.
Our other kid,
Rodolfo will be. I think he just turned 21. I think, right? You can drink now.
He can drink at the next straight show.
Finally.
Eternally 21 is Rodolfo.
That little baby face. I love it. No, but I think that being in your early mid 20s, they're just naive, youthful energy. Right? Because like you think you can do everything in the whole freaking world. You think you can, you know what I mean? You can work 80 hours a week. And yeah, you can, but like obviously that's very limited fuel. But we had it, right? All three of us were in that life stage. And the third life stage is none of us had huge commitments. I was married, but neither of the guys were married, and none of us had kids, right? And again, today version of StoragePug, ain't no way we could do all the things we did in those first few years because I have a beautiful 3 and 1 year old. I want to spend time with him. 5 o'clock rolls around, deuces. Like y'all can slack me, but I'm gonna go home and hang out with my kids, right?
Daddy Tommy time.
I put on my daddy hat and I am there. Or I should say my dad's shoes. I still don't have my official Air Monarchs. I need to get a pair of those.
Nice.
But I think like those three.
If somebody's listening, there's a Christmas gift for Tommy.
There we go. Just the all white classic. I'll also settle for New Balances, but they have to be all white. But I think like all three of those things had to happen at the same time. Plus, and we all have to be honest about this, the bonus point is like where self-storage as an industry was. In 2017, less than 10% of facilities did online rentals, because none of the REITs did it yet. And there was there were a select few regional players and some random local players, but less than 10% of storage operators had online rentals in 2017 when we started. Crazy to think about.
You couldn't have timed it better if you tried, right?
Right. So we built and made a lot of mistakes in those first 3 years, and then COVID happened, and then instantly we had product market fit, right? Everyone and their mom needed the thing that we built, spent all this time building. And during this time too, I think we position our, there was luck. And of course there was like intentionality, right? I don't want to like throw everything up to luck, especially for other folks who are thinking about starting a business. It isn't all luck. There's a lot of luck. There's also a lot of hard work, and like you have to make good gut decisions. And one of those gut decisions was like, we need to be the forefront of like really this positive energy and like creating good, helpful content that's premium. And instead of like following the path of like the typical real estate guru Does that make sense? And we feel this, right? And fortunately, there's not a lot of that guru energy within self-storage, but like broader, if you look at real estate, there's a lot of nasty like pay-to-play gurus. And we're like, you know what? Let's just create all this content that is guru level, but for free and premium. And so we made those decisions. And so like, honestly, that's how we were able to bootstrap, was like, we have 3 founders who can build a product. And we also, again, we made financial decisions that we felt like were long-term success, not just short-term wins. And that allowed us to decide, you know what, we're not going to hire people until we can't afford it. We're never going to like overcommit ourselves. And we just kept putting that playbook on repeat. The decisions got bigger, right? There are batches of hires. In the early days, we would hire 1 person every 6 months. And then most recently, our most recent round of hires, we did like 5 people all at once. And so, the decisions get bigger, but ultimately it's the same playbook of like, we're not going to make any financial commitments or put us in a position where we're like our backs against the corner, where we have to either go to a bank and borrow money or go raise money from a position of weakness and not strength. Right. But that conversation has come up. It's like, okay, what could we raise? Like, could we go do a Series A? And what will we do with that money? And ultimately we decided, you know what? We got the cash flow. Well, let's be our own investors. And let's build our product and let's reinvest the money that we make from our core business. And let's just pour that right back into the company and invest in different ways, building new product, giving people raises, giving people, we're very proud of this. And that's why I want to say it in this podcast. Like Knoxville's a lot more expensive than it was when we started, much like a lot of cities. But Knoxville has gotten extremely expensive. But like, we're very proud that our average comp is well above whatever Knoxville's average comp is. And we don't care where you live. And we don't care that we're in Knoxville. If you get paid this amount to work in New York or San Francisco, that's what we pay. We couldn't always say that, right? 2019 version of StoragePug, we couldn't say that. But as we hit milestones, we're like, you know what? Let's be a company that can lead the charge, right? Like things like parental leave. We give parental leave to the mom and the dad. We have flexible time off. I mean, these are things that I think like as businesses grow and mature, they really need to, it's an opportunity for us to step up and treat people like humans, the way that we would want to be treated. Right. And so like that, I think those are the decisions that's helped us not do the raise money thing, because we didn't want to be beholden to anybody. Right. And I think that was a true fear that I have, and why I would be very much against raising money is like, now I have a boss now that I have to report to. My boss should be the people that I work with and our clients. Like those are the people I should be accountable to, not some schmuck in a spreadsheet in New York City. You know what I mean? And that doesn't sound fun to us. And so we decided that was not the path for StoragePug.
It's a beautiful place to be, man. And, again, your infectious positive energy makes it sound so easy to get there. But I know that's between you and your co-founders, a lot of long days and long nights and weekends and sacrifice. And so, a big hat tip and a lot of mutual respect for the grind you guys went through to build the thing you guys dreamed of.
Thank you, man. And you had a second question. Refresh me on that, on the question.
All good, man. Yeah, I mean, I think the question was around like something as a first-time founder.
Yes.
That as you've grown and matured as a business owner, and that you no longer believe. And this episode is we're gonna have 15 episodes with Tommy, because I know Rodolfo's like, Mason, shut up, let me ask a question. And I've got like 15 questions already queued that you just continue to pull little nuggets out of. Yeah, but I'm just kind of curious, like something that like was a strong belief early on that today is maybe not completely infactual, but a less of a strong belief.
Yeah, I think lots of naive moments, right? I think like anyone who doesn't openly admit that their younger self was naive and dumb are currently naive and dumb. And I think like I was in that category. I think like in 2016, 17, I think I held a belief that like everyone who's in this ship, everyone who's who's in this camp, this whatever, insert, analogy, right? Metaphor, right? Rowboat, bus, whatever you want to insert, right? That everyone who's here needs to row the same hardness or push the same fastest, right? And that's naive, because like as a non-founder, what is there for me in the long run? Right. And I think like I think I disregarded that, because we didn't think about it that way. Because at that time, StoragePug wasn't worth anything. You know what I mean? Like the company is so new, we had no revenue. The founders, we weren't paying ourselves. Like the first 3 years of StoragePug, we didn't pay ourselves.
Yeah.
And I think that's, again, that's part of the.
You're just fueled off of a dream and a potential thing that might happen, right?
Yes, right. And I think so we lost a lot of people who I think if we met them today, they would be a great fit, right? And in fact, we actually had some recently in the last year had some bounce backs. People who left StoragePug because it wasn't a fit at that time, and they're back. And some people we pay twice today what we paid them when they were working with us previously. Because like, again, we couldn't afford it back then, but we can afford it now. And I think like that's such a cool part of our story and their story, right? But I think like the naive part of me was always questioning, like, why aren't you working as hard as me? Well, duh. Right. I mean, and now that we're almost a decade removed, it's like, well, yeah, of course you're not working as hard as me. Why would you? Right. Like if I worked at a place, I'm going to work hard. I'm going to give you my best, but like it stops at 5, and that's okay. Right. And I think like that was, I wish I could go back and have different conversations with the people in those early days.
You also just like realize that people, their batteries are different. We're not all made the same, right? Like, I could, maybe I'm a marathon runner or I'm a sprinter, but like, the difference between a sprinter and a marathon runner is, one is speed, distance, and then the amount of rest that they have to have in between their races. Right. And so like, you're going to have those different personalities on your team, and you've got to understand how to utilize those resources, and not everybody's going to be the same, which is interesting. It's been a hard lesson for me to learn too. I'm a person that like goes after something. I'm an Aries, so I'll put my horn down and like tackle a freaking wall if it's in front of me. Yeah, we're getting into we're totally side tangent into astrological signs now. The hippy dippy side of Mason's coming out, but yeah, I mean, long story short is like sometimes it's hard and intimidating for people that are not co-founders to like try to match that. Right?
Yeah, and I really love your awareness of this. You know what I mean? And I think that's if you haven't fully learned the lesson, the fact that you're aware of it is already the beginning of learning the lesson. I think for me personally, it took probably 3-4 years into StoragePug for me to like really like click. Like, well, yeah, the people around. It's not that they don't care. All right. Like, cause I took it personally. And I think like, that's the naive part is like, I took it personally when people didn't function at their best or didn't give it their all or what have you. It's like, what am I doing wrong that I can't get you to be your best self? And it wasn't that. It has nothing to do with me. And I think that once that clicked, it's like, oh yeah, well now that I can remove that expectation, killer. Right. It just everything's so much more like smooth today. And I think the second thing that I don't believe in as much, although I still very much believe in it, I do believe that if you are a founder or if you're in any way, and it's not a title thing, if you're in any way, shape, or form in charge of anything, cleaning the bathroom or cleaning the office or leading people, right? Or cleaning dishes, whatever it is that you're in charge of, be the best version of that. But I think the thing that I believed in, again, almost a decade ago is like, yeah, like I believe truly in my heart that I should be responding to emails at 4 a.m. Right? Like that. If an email came in, no matter what time, I got to respond. And that was just like, that was the grind. And I didn't realize, and it took years. Again, this took years for me to like finally understand. It was like, that gave my team the impression that was my expectation of them. Even though I would always say, hey man, like I only want you to be awesome between 8 and 5. Before 8, I don't care what you do. After 5, I don't care what you do. I would say that, but how it was received was lip service. Because here's Tommy responding at 6 a.m., responding at 4 a.m. What the hell's going on? Am I expected to do that? And it took probably 3, 4, maybe even 5 years for me to finally click like, oh yeah, that behavior, of course, is bad for me personally and my relationship with my wife, right? Like that's real, but it's also
and your relationship with yourself. I'm sure your mental health, you're always worried about it. Your mental health is not, where it needs to be either.
Yeah, right. So like, so my personal relationships with my family, and then my own personal relationship with myself and the mental health. And then of course, the signals that it sends to my team. And so as I matured, as I entered my year 30, year 31, had a kid at 32, it finally clicked like, yeah, like I thought that was cool. And I thought that was a sign of like strength and a sign of like of commitment, but really I was sending the opposite signals the whole time. So I've built better and more healthy boundaries for myself. And I think that's actually like had a great cascading waterfall effect to all those around me. Of course, my family, but even the people that work here feel healthier and better. It took me a few years to finally click, because I was and still am probably a workaholic, and because I enjoy the work. It's not,
Sure.
you know, I mean, you hear, you know, the whole shtick of like, you know, if you don't work a day in your life, if you love it, and it's like, I will acknowledge that it's work.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, but I enjoy it, and I think like that
It's a
gives I
craft.
just yeah,
Craft.
yes, and I justify the hours, I justify the all of these things, and it's like, well, yeah, maybe there's a balance, and I'm very fortunate today that now that I'm 35, we're entered into, you know, working on year 9 at StoragePug, that I've found that balance. But to be fair to my younger self, right? Not to excuse anything that my younger self did, but like, I think there is also a degree of like, you do just have to hustle. There
Yeah,
is also like, you
your
just
20s are meant for that,
this
you
meant
know,
for
in
that.
general.
Yeah.
And I appreciate the answer, man. It's awesome to dive super deep into that. And I think there's so much like leadership and culture questions that I could dig into. And, you know, if we've got time, I'd want to come back
Yeah.
to stuff. There's a number of things there. But I want to dive into some product things. And one of the things you mentioned earlier was like this ability to say no. And we've actually had, you know, conversations on the showroom floor around, you know, you guys being opinionated around the product that you're building. And so I want to kind of come back to, you know, as a product company, you know, for the people in the audience, when they're partnering with an operator or a vendor that says that they can do everything like you guys were doing in the early stages, that maybe that's not the best partner to go out and do. Like, I'm curious what's the decision framework that you and your team utilize internally to like handle feature requests from customers that don't necessarily align with like your long-term product vision, or maybe even an immediate product vision?
Yeah, no, this is another great. You got all the good questions. So we're proud to say this. So our 2 longest tenured pugs, employees, people who've worked here, is Anna, who's our director of design. She started in May of 2019. Crazy. And so she's been with us 6+ years. And then Tomash, who's our director of product now, he's also been here for 6 years. He started in July of 2009. And so we use a platform called Product Board. And so every feature, every idea, internal or client or whoever, random idea that we have when we wake up in here, right? We log into Product Board. And so there's probably 3 primary measurements on how we decide what to build and what not to build, right? So the first kind of consideration is what's the, you know, and all of this is very subjective and it's all very relative, right? But like, because like at any given point in time, you might have 100 ideas or even more, sometimes 1,000 ideas. And so you have to really weigh all these things. So it is all very relative, it's all very subjective. So, you know, if you're building a product company and you're listening to this, don't take this as science. You have to really apply this to your current scenario. But the first category that we look at is how much value does this particular idea bring to our clients? Like, that's the very first thing. And value can be measured in a lot of different ways, but typically our value is like, what's the job that's being done, right? Like, if we build this thing, what's the job that this thing does? And like, what pain or challenges does it relieve? How much money? Is this a feature that's going to make our client more money? Is it going to cost them money? Is it just like a wash? So that's like, those are all the various different definitions of value, right? So there's some relative value measurement. And, you know, sometimes depending on the set of features we're looking at, it's a scale of 1 to 10, scale of 1 to 3, a scale of 1 to 5. So like, again, scale is all relative and subjective, but that's number 1 is value. Number 2, how difficult is it? And difficulty is measured in a lot of different ways. Difficulty is in like, just technically, like, how hard is this thing to build, right? And I'm proud to say that things are easier to build today than there were 4 or 5 years ago with, of course, AI, but also with better developers, a team of developers, right? But difficulty also is time. Like, how big a chunk is this? If we're going to take a bite out of this apple, how big of a bite is this thing, right? And then thirdly is long-term use. Is this feature something that we're going to be proud to talk about and show off in the future? You know, again, you have to apply this to your specific business, but like, yeah, 6 months from now, are we going to talk about this feature? A year from now, 5 years from now, are we going to talk about this feature? Or is this something that's going to be built and it's going to be long forgotten, right? And so that's a short version of our matrix, right? So value, difficulty, and how long this thing will last. And that is it's a loose version. Mosh has all the science. He loves, I mean, he's a scrum master. He's got all these certifications. He loves managing product. And so he's got all of that. And we've got like product management life cycles and like all of those things. Fortunately for me, fortunately for them, the people who build the product, I'm not involved.
Nice.
So I'm usually part of like the very initial ideation of like, I give them my 2 cents and then I'm out, product gets built, I get brought in to learn about it. Then I kind of like synthesize it and share it with the sales team, marketing team, success team, and all that kind of stuff. So like, that's my role, but everything in between about building the product, I'm not in those meetings because we have Tomash. Matt and Richard are both full-time in the product, and I get to spend my time talking to clients, doing these things, doing sales, going to trade shows. And I think that's my primary role at StoragePug. So all the client-facing stuff is like my bread and butter. But so again, value, the difficulty measured in those different ways, and then the how long this thing lasts is the rough framework that we use to decide what feature to.
I'm curious. That's really interesting. Like, how long did it take you guys to get to a point where this matrix, like, yes, this is repeatable, it's a template, and also like outside of that, as a startup, right? I'm assuming there have been bets that you have made on the product that maybe laid outside this matrix that maybe were really hard or you wrestled with internally. It's like, hey, should we actually do this? And it ended up working, or maybe it didn't end up working. Are there any that resonate at all?
Yeah, no, man. Like the framework is ever evolving, but it started with intentional. Let's start with something, right? And something was a spreadsheet. Like before product board, before we had fancy software, like literally Matt started up a Google sheet and we made up columns, right? Degree of difficulty. Is this going to be a moneymaker or not? Is it, we made these columns and there was probably 5-10 different columns. And then each row was the feature, right? And we do it. And then each column had a value and then there'd be a number at the end that gets calculated, right? You got to start somewhere. So don't worry so much about like having the perfect framework, but you have to have something because it makes it easier to talk about and it makes it easier to get other people on board is what the framework does. And so, but yeah, the what I described to you is really an ever evolving and changing system. That's just the current iteration. And so it's not the final form. It's not the Gyarados yet. I don't know if Gyarados has a next form, but we're probably above Magikarp.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, so that really honestly is where we're at there. Now, absolutely. Have been times where, and I'm the guilty party sometimes, is like, guys, I think this feature is crushing. It's going to crush. Dude, like this feature, I'm going to sell it like hotcakes. I'm going to talk about it on the trade show floor and they're going to want to sign up right there and then. Right. And how many times has that actually happened where it was that successful? 0. But
every time, Tommy, every time. Are you kidding me?
And so I do my best to pitch it. And so there are times where like, we don't play the founder card often, right? But like there are times where like I have conviction about this. Let's go do it. And then sometimes we're right and sometimes we're wrong. But we've built full product lines that we never launched because by the time we finished building it, we didn't need it anymore, or it was silly. Like in 2018, between 2007 and 18, so like we were just getting started, we built a mobile application, like an iOS app. And we're like, by the time we finished it, we're like, why did we do this? Because like, we're just going to send people to the website. No one's going to want to download a silly app to rent a unit. So we never launched it. That code died in 2018 and we never looked back. And I think like that's something I'm really proud of with my founders, Matt and Richard, like when we make a mistake like that, none of us do, right? We don't have sunk cost fallacy. It sucks that we lost that time, that energy, that money, but we got to move on. And so that's something that I've had to learn that other people may not have learned that yet. Does that make sense? Like we've had engineers and salespeople and like success people who spend weeks or months on something, and we decide as a company we're not going to launch that. It really impacts their psyche, which is fair because like that's your job. That's what you produce, and it's like, well, they didn't use it. Well, it turns out it wasn't best to use it. So we have no pride in that. Does that make sense? Like we take no pride in admitting that we're wrong and deciding to do something else or something better. So yeah, there have been whole product lines that we either built all the way to the end or got halfway and realized this was wrong, or something else took precedent, right? And something else became more important, and we had to shift gears. And I think this is where having a really strong leadership team can help steer that, and having people like Anna and Tomasz really give their feedback and their stewardship has really helped us build product better. Because before Anna, like the first 2 years, we would dream of something and go build it. No design process, no mock-ups, no Figma. We would just go build it, right? And Matt and Richard, and me included, none of us are like trained designers, right? Like, don't ask me to design anything. UX, like I pick colors. No, we're not the right people.
Just
for
saw
that.
Kyle get an aneurysm over there.
Yes.
Kyle's having flashbacks to me trying to do UI,
Let's
UX
not talk too much.
Yeah. But that was us, right?
Don't give Mason ideas. Don't give Mason ideas.
Yeah. So we had like developers be designers, and it's just chaos, right? And so when we hired Anna, she kind of just laughed at us, and we're like, "What do you mean?" Like, she's like, "You this is cute, guys. Like you, it's kind of bless your heart." And we didn't, we didn't take offense to it. We're like, "Well, show us." And dude, golly, blew us away. And so Anna actually started part-time because we could only afford like 20 hours of her time a week. And we're like, whatever we got to do, we got to hire Anna. We cannot lose her. Because I think we were I'm fairly certain at that time we were just one of her consulting clients. Because she had just left a gig at Google. She worked at Google for a number of years. And she had just left Google. And so she worked with us part-time. And we're like, you know what? We got to bring you in. We got to bring you in-house. I don't want you to work in anybody else. She just blew us away. So now our product development process starts with ideation, but then there's a research phase, which we didn't have any research back then. We just built it. And then we have a design phase where like someone actually builds a wireframe, mock-up, and then sometimes, depending on the feature, we have a prototype in Figma, and then we go build it in software. So it's way more sophisticated now than it ever has been. Now, there are parts of me that wish we were more like cowboy coding and wild, wild west. Like we moved faster then, but it was reckless. Now it's more intentional and it feels more sane, and it feels correct. But yeah, so we definitely have made many a product mistake, but that framework again is the current evolution of it. And Tomasz is really ultimately the guardian, and he's the one who punches it into his thing and just tells us what to build.
Nice. And let's talk a little bit about you mentioned this prior, but I feel like year 9, right? 2018 or whatnot, you're kind of getting into it. 20, a pandemic hit, everything kind of exploded for y'all. I feel like when you guys went gangbusters, but in the probably last 5 years, 4 years, there's been a bunch of new tech in the industry.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And so within that, right, there's players all over the place, management softwares, marketplaces, etc. And in your ecosystem, right, there's websites. That being FMSs have their own websites, or there's you guys, etc. So I'm just kind of curious how you, leadership and the Pug team in general, like how do you stay focused in the sea of, incumbents or up and coming products and platforms? How do you ensure that you're staying ahead of the curve and really continue to innovate in your own lane?
Yeah, no, this is a good, y'all are seriously coming with the good questions. I think this is a tough one. And this is one that I think we grapple with because like we always want to be known. I mean, just like you guys, right? Just like a Swivel, you don't want to be known as the B product in your category. You know what I mean? Like you don't want to be known as like the Domino's version of pizza. You want the like handcrafted Neapolitan, the pizza chef grew up in Italy. That's the guy pouring sauce on your pizza. You want that pizza, right? And so like that's tough, right? And that's a high standard. It's not tough like in woe is me. It's tough is like we set the bar very high, and that pushes our team, right? Like Anna, for example, it pushes her. And she loves it. I mean, she said this is the kind of environment that she wished she had at some of the bigger companies that she worked at. It was like there's a bit of like complacency, if that makes sense. Like, oh, we're here. Good is good enough. We don't need to continue evolving. We're like, nah, what we did 6 months ago, if we're still doing that, something is either really wrong or we just struck gold. Most of the time, we're really wrong. And I think like that mindset, that mentality is tough because and this is going back to Mason's question of like something I maybe had a firm belief in and learn. I didn't necessarily have firm belief one way or the other, but I've learned and picked this up is that not everyone is built, or not everyone wants an environment where things are changing all the time, right? Some people want to be good is good enough. Some people want to build stability around their work and create repeatable processes and create predictability, right? And then here comes Tommy, Matt, and Richard. They want to create chaos and want to change things and want to, you know what I mean? And so we've had to like balance all of this out. But really though, to answer your question, I think we're listening to our clients. We're watching what's out there, right? Like you mentioned, like since 2020, I think there's been a much interest in our industry, and it's really fun to watch. Like the REITs are doing interesting and neat things, right? Extra Space has their own version of what they're doing, and Cube does too, and even some of the smaller REITs, like Smart Stop now, right? I mean, like we got some really unique and really cool things from just like the organizations. And yeah, you've got fellow vendors, right? There are people who've entered the space whose companies didn't exist in 2020. And so like in that way, we're kind of like the incumbent, which is really weird to say, right? Because when we entered the scene, I mean, you had groups like G5, you had groups like Automated who are no longer here, right? And of course, you had the whole storable wing of companies. And so like if you think about what we came from and what we saw and what we, were technically, I'll say competing. I think that's too strong of a word, but what we were going up against, right? What our clients were evaluating from. The awesome sauce, the awesome news, they have more option now than they ever did, right? If you want online rentals and you use whatever software, awesome.
Which is that's such amazing. That's amazing for the market, right? Like
so amazing.
It's so great. Like competition in general in a market is like it pushes everybody forward. It makes us all want to be better. Like it's so good.
Yeah, because as consumers, we know industries that don't have competition and they all suck. Airlines, hotels. I mean, who has a great experience in any of those? You know what I mean? It's because there's no competition, and no one is pushing those companies forward but themselves. And ultimately they have to respond to the stakeholders, and it's capitalism, and it is what it is. And I'm not anti making money, but there are some nasty things that capitalism makes businesses do, especially as big, as they get bigger. But yeah, so I think like our job is to make sure that we're continuing to be good stewards for the people who pay us good money to maintain their online presence, maintain their online rental capabilities, maintain their integrations, and provide really good tools for them and their tenants. Right? What's hilarious is like, and Swivel falls in this category. The software that we build for our clients isn't used by our clients; it's used by their tenants. So really, in a funny way, we're like a B to B to C company. All right.
For sure.
And so we have to like maintain not just like our clients level of like what modern means, but like we have to maintain like if our clients tenants, which is just everybody in America, what are they shopping on? Right? What are they using to buy things? What are they using to interface on the internet? Right. And so we're, instead of like looking at just other self-storage companies, our kind of like what we look into for inspiration is big brands like Airbnb, Shopify, Nike. These are the brands that our design team loves to study. Even big brands like Target and Amazon. We're following what those guys and gals are doing. And then we have to decipher what can we lift and what can we borrow and incorporate into self-storage, instead of like looking at Extra Space and saying, oh, Extra Space is doing this, we need to do that. That's really not how our process works. We're like more broadly speaking, what are we doing? Because here's the issue, right? If self-storage only copies from self-storage, then you have the same blueprint for everybody. And if the blueprint was like, if there was a fallacy to begin with, that typo will continue all the way through to every copy, right? And so that we felt like here's an opportunity for us to create a platform that was built for self-storage with self-storage insight, but not cut from the same cloth. And let's actually follow more like Shopify or Airbnb or some of these other brands, because most likely humans who use the internet have bought something from a Shopify website. As they're pretty ubiquitous, right? Most everyone has seen what Airbnb looks like, and just about every damn person has bought something from Amazon. And so if we can borrow those elements and incorporate that into self-storage, let's do that. And so that is what kind of fuels us, if that makes sense. So in one hand, I love that there's more competition. I love that there's more options. On the other hand, we don't really care. Like we think like those people there's enough people that we all can be very successful and have a great time in this industry. And so come one, come all. And as long as you take care of your customers and do what you say you do, I'm going to like you. But of course, there are people who unfortunately can't deliver on what they say they do. And I like you less.
I mean, I appreciate like the deepness that we get in here. And like I said, we could probably sit here and talk. Like, there's literally so many culture and like leadership things that I have notes that I want to dive into that we're probably not going to have time to get into today. So, but I am curious. I want to take like current state right now and go just like a little bit in the future and go, like, what are some of the things that, Tommy is excited about? Where's the trends that are taking the industry in the next, 3 to 5 years? And specifically, like, how is StoragePug planning on, continuing to innovate and be that brand on the show floor, or just as a presence in the market that, is that non-Domino's brand? It's the Italian,
the artisan
pizza.
Yeah. I think like my 2 points here. So the second one, I can't talk to you guys and not make the second point. But the first point is like, I think probably now more than ever, it's really important if you're an independent operator and your goal is not to sell, right? If your goal is to cash out, more power to you. Go do the damn thing. Go retire to Hawaii or whatever like go do it. But if you want to stay in the marketplace and be a presence, you got to look good. You got to provide the best tools, because consumers are very quick to distrust businesses, right? We're very quick to like load a website or pull up Google Business or whatever, read reviews and like, oh, wow, I'm definitely not going to work with that company, right? I mentioned at the top of the call, my wife and I are moving. Instead of buying a Rivian, we decided to buy a house. Probably the smarter investment, TBH, but we're looking at like random stuff like trash service, right? We're moving to the county and it's not city built provided trash. And we're like looking at different trash providers. And yeah, unfortunately for the small guys, we went with the big guy because the big guy looked more trustworthy. And because I went to the small guy's website and it looked like it was built in 1994. I'm not going to give you my credit card here, right? And like, I think self-storage is not far off from that, right? And I think like operators who are still thinking small-minded, I think it's going to be unfortunate, because what's going to happen is it's going to give more reason for the REITs and the big guys to do really well, because they will continue to invest in their technology. They will continue to invest in customer experience. They will continue to invest in marketing. And so I think that gap is just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. But what's really awesome is, and we touched on this just a moment ago, is like there are people like StoragePug. There are other great vendors who can help bridge that gap. And also DIY is still a thing and you can do it now, right? Like with AI and with all these other things and tools and resources and training classes and these webinars and other things that are out there and trade shows, you can, if you have a little bit of technical bone in you. And we're seeing it. I'm seeing I'm curious if y'all see it too. A lot of second gen owners, you know what I mean? A lot of the recent college grad who's taken over mom and dad's storage business, that group of people are coming in. And I think that's fun, because those people are not afraid of tech. In fact, they grew up in tech, right? And I think those people are a little bit more embracing and willing to dice it up. So I think that's really big to me, is I want operators to hear me loud and clear. It's like, hey, we can't just be good is good enough. Unless you do want to be Domino's, and that's fine. I eat Domino's. No offense to Domino's. I eat Domino's.
I love some Domino's.
Love me some Domino's.
Sometimes Papa John's, though. Shout out Papa John's is what I'm saying.
Papa John's is like literally 2 doors down from our office. So some Fridays, I gotta pick up order, and I'm on the way home, honey. I got Papa John's. So like, I'm not shaming those companies. They know who they are, right? But if I was to be a storage business, I would want to be the artisan pizza version of the storage business, because that's just the kind of business I would want to run. My second exciting thing is I'm talking to the AI guys. You gotta, you know what I mean? AI is gonna be, it's transformative. I think it can be, I watched it can be scary too, right? I don't want to speak doom and gloom, but big companies like McDonald's, for example, right? They can spend $2 million to invest in AI systems that ultimately replace 40, 50 employees per store, right? And they'll make that money back in salary alone in like 18 months. So then now we go from an individual business, McDonald's franchise, employing 50 to 60 people to employing 10 to 15 people. Well, what's going to happen to like those other 50 people? Who knows? And I think like self-storage is not it's not a fair analogy because like self-storage only typically employs 2 people, right? And so at the same time, I think there will be some transformations that will happen, and I don't know. Some of it will be good, some of it will be bad. We're pro AI at StoragePug in the sense of like let's use it to augment what we do, but I think we are emphatically anti AI replacing human functions that require human functions. So that's our current take. Now, I reserve the right to change where we stand in a few years, but that is where we are now. And so we are encouraging our team from development to support to sales to marketing, use AI, use Claude, use Gemini, use ChatGPT, use it to augment your job, but ultimately be critical. Because I think right now humans can be critical. AI can't be critical yet. Maybe one day, very, very soon. I mean, the advancement from the launching of ChatGPT 3 to where we are now it's a very different world now, right? But I think like that's what we challenge our team is like be critical because right now humans can be critical. That's the part that we can bring to the table. And so I suggest that to self-storage operators as well. Is like be critical. Don't just go ask Claude or ChatGPT, give me a Facebook post and then copy pasta slop for your storage business. Be critical about it. Have a take. Like who are we in the community, right? And really asking ourselves these questions if you go do those kinds of advertising, and that's how we're incorporating it into our product as well. We've got some potentially unique and potentially fun, nothing I can announce on this show, but we've got some fun things that we've been working on, and some of it's got some AI elements, but we want to do it in a mindful way, right? We've all watched and seen the Tim Cook and Apple interviews where like they'd really dropped the ball on Apple AI or Apple Intelligence, as they called it, right? And we think we want to be more mindful than that. We don't want to have StoragePug AI as we see a lot of companies slap AI into their name. And here's our new AI product. We want to be a little bit more thought out and be a little bit more mindful. But at the same time, I encourage it for our team and anyone in the industry to use it to augment what you're doing, but it would just remain critical. Because I think right now that's the strength of humans is we are very critical, or we have the capacity to be critical. We don't always use it. We don't always use that critical brain, but we have the capacity to do so. So yeah, that's my soapbox when it comes
And
to
I feel like we could have talked about this particular topic for 45 more minutes. And
Yes,
you just mentioned Apple and Mason. I know he's biting his tongue.
I'm resisting the urge to have another 45-minute diatribe on, just the state of AI in the large tech industry. Because I don't think Apple's the only one that's dropping them.
They absolutely are not the only one. No. It's just unfortunately for them, they are the most public one, the most obvious one.
I don't know the saying, but the crown is heavy or whatever. The head is heavy who wears a crown or whatever the saying is. It's like, when you're the biggest company in the freaking world.
Yeah. Yeah. I had the opportunity to buy a chunk of NVIDIA stock in like 2019 and I didn't. So I'm not a mind reader. So anything I said can be disproved.
Love it.
Yeah. It's a crazy time, man.
It is. Hey, are you down for some like quick fire questions?
Let's do it. Fire away.
All right. Let's see. Can you hear me all right? All right, cool. All right. So I'm curious. You wear a lot of hats. So do you have any systems or rituals that help you kind of like keep it all together?
Yeah. I'm a spontaneous dude. Like I will roll up and figure out my day. I'm not the executive who like plans his week ahead. I don't look at my calendar until I get to work. However, my one ritual that helps me is I will actually respond to every email that people send me because I star the ones that I need to respond to. And that's the only way I keep my inbox sane. I've got like 69,000 unread messages right now. But everyone who's got a star next to their name will get responded to, and that's the only way I can stay sane. And I do a similar system in Slack.
Nice.
Slack is our internal communication tool, and I will flag conversations that I need to respond to.
Nice. And that's a good segue. What's one tech tool or app or gadget that you can't live without?
Yeah, Gmail is tough, but I say right now, just because our whole entire business surrounds it, it would be painful to lose Slack. If Salesforce decides to shut down Slack tomorrow, it would suck because we have so many integrations piping into Slack. Like HubSpot flows into Slack, Zoom flows into Slack. I mean, so many things feed into Slack. Our notifications for our product team flows into Slack. It would be a nightmare. So unfortunately, for better or for worse, because there's a lot of things I dislike about Slack, but it is not Slack's fault. It's just the nature of instant messaging times 40 people. You know what I mean? They're just inherent flaws there. But yeah, Slack. So Slack would be the one tool right now that it would be tough to run a business without.
And one more from me, unless anyone else has it. But if you weren't building StoragePug right now, in an alternate universe, what career or what thing would you be doing today?
Man, I think in an alternate universe, I'd be a teacher. That was my first
I can
passion.
see that.
That was my first passion. Before doctor. I mean, doctor is so stereotypical Asian, right? Like obviously I'm Vietnamese. I'm obviously not from America. We covered that, but like, you know, you have to be a doctor and a lawyer or an engineer. That's like, you know, that's the typical 3 choices that you get to pick if you were born into an Asian, and especially a first generation immigrant family. There's no other choice. And so doctor was like forced onto me to some degree. But I think my first passion, my first choice, I would have loved to be a teacher, you know, maybe a high school teacher.
Any
I think that
particular
would be,
class?
I think I would love teaching math
Math.
or potentially computer science. Now that I have a career in computer science, I think I would enjoy that too. But yeah, I think teaching would be, there's another, yeah, in the parallel universe somewhere else, there's a Tommy Nguyen who shows up to school, and school's about to start this week. So yeah, I'll be a teacher.
I've got a couple really quick ones. Favorite Knoxville coffee shop?
Ooh, favorite Knoxville coffee shop. So there's I don't know it has the best coffee, but there's a coffee shop called Java, Old City Java. It's been I don't know, they've been around forever. I mean, they were around when I was in high school. So they've been around for 20 plus years. Really good folks. Again, I don't know that their coffee is magical, but like the vibe is right on. So if you're in Knoxville, swing by Old City Java. A second very close is Wild Love Bakery. They do coffees, but they also do like made in-house delicious danishes and bakeries. So Wild Love would be like a close number 2. But yeah, Old City Java and Wild Love. But I don't drink coffee. My wife does. Coffee makes me jittery. So I just enjoy the vibes.
I won't ask the next question about how you take your coffee then, but
if I do though, lately, if I really need to, I drink decaf with like half cream. So like mostly cream with a little splash of coffee is how I typically do it. I'm a pansy that way.
all right, continuing. One emoji that describes your current vibe.
Ooh, I think the emoji with the cowboy hat.
Nice, I love that.
Yeah, I think that, yeah, little goofy guy, just running around being a goofy goober. That's probably me right now.
All right, I got 2 more really quick ones. Your first concert that you ever went to?
Ooh, I think it was a Fish concert. Knoxville had
okay.
I was a kid. They had a thing called Sundown in the City during the summer. Every Thursday night, they would have a concert, and they would bring in big acts. Downtown, it was free, and it was a Fish show, and I don't remember what year it was, but that was my very first concert. I was like, well, this is cool. So the concert I remember the most is Amos Lee. I saw him, I think I was in college by that point. So that was the one that I felt like, oh, this is really cool. But Fish was technically my first real concert.
I love that, man. And I'd be a disservice if I didn't ask about you being a dad. So I'm curious, man, just like last question from me, like how to becoming a dad change your leadership style, like in how you approach time in general.
When you have a kid,
and maybe that might not be a quick fire question
yeah,
either.
I would try my best to do a quick fire. Right? I think 3 things. So number 1 is as soon as that little bundle of pure love and magic, as soon as they take their first breath, like the magnetism or the gravity is so strong that wherever your tentacles were pointing before, everything points to her or him. That little baby has every bit of your attention. That was my experience, right? Like everything became about Vera. Now that I have Nico, everything is about Vera and Nico. And like every decision I make, they're the first, like they're now the number 1 criteria. Is this good for Vera? Is this good for Nico? And prior to, even when we were pregnant, even when my wife was pregnant, that didn't, like the baby's there. I know the baby's in her belly, but like it wasn't real yet. You know what I mean? It's the moment she was born, the moment I saw them lifting the little baby out, tears and like all this joy, my compass immediately. She's my North Star. She's north for me, and that's impacted every decision since. Right? Who we hire, how we hire, what decisions what risk we take on, right? And on one hand, I'm less risky than I ever was, but on the other hand, we're more calculated, right? Because I don't want to take an L. So I think that's really big. Number two is like time blocking. All of a sudden, I'm not the kind of guy who stays until 6:30 or 7 at the office, responding to emails or whatever it is that I'm working on, right? 5 o'clock rolls around, I start to wrap up, and I'm usually out of here by 5:10, 5:50. Most of the crew is gone by 5, and I'll usually be, kind of wrapping up the office and that sort of thing. So I'm a lot better with time because I want to come home. Because like, dude, once y'all have kids, now none of y'all three have kids currently? Okay, so little kids, at least our little kids, they do bedtime at like 7 p.m. So like, if you don't get home by like 5:30, you don't see your kids. So yeah, I'm gonna go see my kids, right? And so that has changed. And then the third thing is, up until I had kids, I would say 97% of my brain capacity was thinking about StoragePug related things, right? The good stuff, the bad stuff, the planning, what's up next, what happened, the different decisions we got to make, the, what's exciting, what product we're building, good or bad or unfortunate conversations I have to have with people who work here, and, bad conversations with clients. Like, all of these things are just rattling around in my brain all the time. What we could have done better at the trade show. I mean, all these things, right? Now it's way less. Like, and nothing has. And here's what's awesome, and I think this will be good for you guys as you're building Swivel, and anyone who's listening who's building something cool. Just because my mental capacity for StoragePug the pie has shifted to like 97% my children, StoragePug is still living and breathing, right? Turns out StoragePug didn't need my 100% obsession about it 24/7. Turns out that's not what StoragePug needed. And that happened very quickly. Like, again, like this moment I saw Vera come out of the belly, and the whole birthing situation is like, yeah, this is what I was meant to be. So any future dads or moms out there, those were my experiences. I imagine everyone has their own ways of processing this, but that was my experiences. Like, my North Star became her and Nico now that he's around too, and my mental capacity has shifted, and then my time blocking has very much improved. My wife is way happier. There are many, in the early days of StoragePug, there were so many nights where like she would have to do dinner by herself because I'm working late in the office with Matt and Richard, right? And that gets old. As the partner who is at home, that gets old. And I really shout out Sophie for like sticking it through, because there were some hard moments there for her of like, well, I'm married to this dude who I never see, right? And so, but having kids really have changed that for me, and here I am now. My daughter starts preschool next Tuesday, which is crazy. So she's doing like a 2-day a week program, and we're proud and we're excited, and I think she's kind of excited too. And yeah, you blink and they walk, and you blink and they run, and you blink and they go to school, and who knows what's next. So yeah, so I'm sorry that wasn't a rapid fire answer, but that is how I feel about having children.
It's all solid, Tommy. I appreciate you taking the time to hang out with us today. One last question: where can people find you? StoragePug news? Anything else that you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, if you want to reach out to me personally, I'm pretty easy to find. Tommy@storagepug.com. I do respond to every email that is like request my attention. I'm on LinkedIn, Tommy Nguyen, spelled Nguyen. If you Google Tommy StoragePug, I'll be easy to find that way. But StoragePug, though, it's got tons of resources. So just go to the website, storagepug.com, and then there's a Learn tab, which got tons of downloads, guides, ebooks, videos. Also the blog, we publish content weekly, fresh content that's usually topical, or if it's not topical, it's operational advice. We most recently published a thing on AI, and we published a thing on spring cleaning. There's just lots of fun stuff there. So check out the StoragePug ecosystem. I'm also the co-host of Gab Focus, which is our monthly webinar series. We are on like episode 70 something. So was why I love that y'all are already on 30 something, because it feels like y'all just started and here you are now crushing it. So thanks for having me on this episode, guys, and would love to come back and
Dude,
deep
we're
dive
so grateful.
on any of the other things.
So grateful for you having you on, man. Like I said at the very beginning of this, like there's just so many topics that we are not going to get to today. I've got a list of people that I can't wait to get on the podcast for a second time, and you're definitely on it. And man, I'd like, again, personally, just grateful for the support that you've always shown us as Swivel. Hopefully you feel that vice versa as being a cheerleader for the Pug team in general. Man, again, super grateful for the time today. The nuggets are awesome. And there's just so many things that we're going to have like a 3-hour podcast. Maybe we'll do it live one day at one of these conferences
That'd be so
and
fun.
combine a whole bunch of these people together. So thanks for the time, dude. It was awesome.
Thank you guys. Appreciate you.
Great to nerd out with you a little bit.
All day, every day. Thanks, guys.